Hi friends, welcome back to Parnika tutorials. In this video, I want to discuss about exception handling in JavaScript. So I sincerely request everyone to watch the complete video for better understanding. Before discussing about the exception handling, let me discuss about the different types of errors usually you will get. Normally we will get three types of errors. One is the syntax error, second one is logical error, and the next one is the runtime error. Now, what is meant by syntactic error? The syntax error means any programming language has its own predefined syntax. You need to follow that predefined syntax to write the program in that programming language. Instead of following that predefined syntax, if you done any mistake, then it will give the syntax error for you. Let me discuss with a simple example. In JavaScript, if I want to display anything, I can write it as document.write, and whatever the content I want to display, I will write here. And now let me save this program and let me go to the browser and let me refresh it. Now I am displaying the hi for you. So I have followed the predefined syntax properly. That's why I got the output. In place of document.write, if I write document.writing, then I am not following the predefined syntax. In that case, all other programming languages will give the syntax error. Then you need to understand the syntax error and then you need to rectify that error. Then again, if you execute the program, you will get the output. Whereas in the JavaScript, if you do any syntax error, it will not give either error or output. If you want to verify, let me refresh it. Now you are not getting any error nor you are getting the output. In JavaScript, if you does not get the output, then meaning is that you have done some mistake in the program. Then you need to modify it and then you need to save the program, and again if you refresh it, you will get the output. Syntax error means when a user makes a mistake in the predefined syntax of a programming language, a syntax error may appear. And the second type of error is we have the logical error. The logical error means you have written the logic wrongly in the program. Suppose let's take that I have asked you to write a program to compute the sum of the individual digits. Then you should get the output in this example as 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3, 6, 6 plus 4, 10. You should get the output as 10. In place of writing the program to compute the sum of the individual digit, you have written the program to compute the product of the individual digits. In that case, you will get the output as 24. When you given the input as 1, 2, 3, 4, you should get the output as 10. But as you have written the logic wrongly, you got the output as 24. Similarly, let's consider that I have asked you to write a program to compute the first 5 digits of the Fibonacci series or first n digits of the Fibonacci series, and then I have given the input as 1. Then you are expecting the output as 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. So this is the first 5 numbers in the Fibonacci series where the first 2 numbers are 0, 1. But I don't know how to write the logic for playing the first n elements in the Fibonacci series. Instead of that one, I have written the program to compute the factorial of a given number. If I have given the input as 5, it will give the output as 120. So my logic is wrong. Okay, so those kind of errors we'll call it as logical errors. And the next one is runtime error. Runtime error means you have given the input wrongly. Let's consider that somewhere in the program you are performing the division. You have written div is equal to a divided by b, and you have asked the input from the user a value and b value, and user does not know that you are performing the division. User have entered the a value as 10 and b value as 0. Now 10 by 0, what it is? Now in mathematics it is infinity, but in some programming language it will give the 0 exception error, means you are trying to divide a number by 0. Similarly, let's consider that you have given an array of 10 elements. Then you will have the index from 0 to 9, and you are trying to access an element which is there at the 50th index. In 50th index there is no element because in that array only 10 elements are there. So you have 0 to 9 index. Then if you are trying to access the 50th index element, you does not have the 50th index. Then if you does not have the 50th index, how can you display the element which is there in the 50th index? Then you will get the error as index error. So all these are the runtime errors. Your program is perfectly correct, it is syntactically correct, and it is logically correct, but you are giving the wrong input. So such kind of errors we will call it as runtime errors. When an error occurs during the executing of a program, such an error is known as a runtime error. Exception handling, we will handle the runtime errors. To handle the runtime errors in the JavaScript, we have the try, catch, finally, and throw. Using these statements, we can handle the exception handling in JavaScript. So in programming language, exception handling is a process or a method used for handling the abnormal statements in the code and executing them. It also enables to handle the flow control of the code. Let me discuss this point with an example. Let's consider that I have written document.write hi, and then I have written document.write how are you, and then if I write document.writing, means I am doing some mistake here. Instead of writing write statement, I am writing writing. I am fine. And then if I write document.write hi baby, now you can observe in the 4 lines I have written first 2 lines properly, third line wrong, and fourth line right. Then you can observe what will happen. Let me save this program, go to the browser, and let me refresh it. So you got the first 2 lines correctly. Hi, how are you? To do that one, let me provide the break statement so that it will be clear for you. Let me copy this break one and paste it here, and paste it here. Now let me save this program and go to the browser and let me refresh it. As the first 2 lines are properly written, you are getting the output as hi, how are you. In the third line you have some issue. Even the fourth line is correct. As the third line is an issue, it will stop executing from the third line. It will not execute the fourth line. It is an abnormal situation. These abnormal situations we can handle with the help of the exception handling in JavaScript. So if you want to handle the exception handling in the JavaScript, we have the error object. What is the meaning of the error object is whenever a runtime error has been occurred, then it creates and throws an error object for you. So an error object has 2 properties. One is the name and another one is the message. The name returns the name of the error. The message returns an error message in the string form. So whenever a runtime error occurs, an error object will be created. So when a runtime error occurs, it creates an error object and throws it. And every error object has the 2 properties. One is the name and second one is the message. So the name reflects what kind of error it is and the message represents the complete details in the string form. So to handle the runtime errors in the JavaScript, we have the try statement, catch statement, finally statement, throw statement. What is the purpose of each statement? Let me discuss in detail for you. Then I will discuss this concept practically with an example so that it will be clear for you. First, let me discuss about the try statement. Whatever the code you want to write, that code you will write in the try statement. Whenever there is a runtime error in the try statement, then error object will be thrown by the try statement. That error object should be catched by the catch statement, and the catch statement will handle the error. So in a movie you will have the villain and hero. So in error handling, the try statement is like a villain. means always the villain will create the problem, right? And hero will handle the villain issues. Am I right or wrong? So here the try statement will create the problems for you. Once the try statement creates the problem, the catch statement has to handle it. Let's consider that the villain is a good villain. He is not creating any problem. Meaning is that in try statement there is no issue. If there is no runtime error in the try statement, then villain is very good. If villain is very good, is it required to have a hero in the movie? Not at all. Whenever the villain is creating the issue, then only if the hero enters in the movie, and if hero beats the villain, then only audience will enjoy the movie. If villain is doing very good, he is doing the charity, he is loving all his family members in the entire village, he is not beating everyone, he is hugging everyone, and he is helping everyone, then if the hero enters, the movie will become flap. So if there is no issue in the try statement, then the statements which are there in the catch statement will not be executed. Whenever there is an issue in the try statement, then only the appropriate catch statement will handle the issue. The code which has possible error testing is kept in the try block. If you feel that this code will have possible error, that code you should write in the try block. Whenever the try block creates an issue, that issue will be handled by the catch statement. This block, the catch block, handles the error of the code by executing the set of statements written within the catch block. In the finally block, what are the statements you want to compulsory execute it? Let's consider that in try block you have opened the file, and after opening the file there is some issue, then the statements which are there in the catch statement will be executed, but the end you want to close the file. Am I right? Because you have opened the resource, it is your duty to close the file. That kind of compulsory statements, the statements which are compulsory should be executed, those statements you should write in the finally block. So either any issue is there in the try statement, also the statements which are there in the finally block will be executed. Even if there are no issues in the try statement also, then also the statements which are there in the finally block will be executed. So the statements which are compulsory should be executed, those statements you will mention in the finally block or finally statement. Then we have the throw statement. It is used for throwing the user defined errors. Like let's take that try statement will throw the predefined errors, whereas if you want to throw the user defined errors, let me give a simple example. While the user is entering the input, you have specified that user should not enter more than 10 value. If user is entering more than the 10 value, then you need to raise an error. That error you can raise using the throw statement. Let's consider that you are applying for a government job, and the government job says that the people who have age less than 35 are allowed. Then while you are creating that form as a developer, if the user enters the age less than 35, it should accept that one. If the user enters the age greater than 35, then a user defined error should throw, right? It should display that you are not eligible to apply for this job. Such kind of user defined error should rise, that we can rise with the help of throw statement. So I hope you have understood the purpose of try statement, catch statement, finally statement and throw statement. Let me discuss each concept practically with an example so that it will be clear for you. Now let me write this entire program in the try block, and then in catch block I want to write E, and then I want to display it document.write, and I want to say the error name is, because I want to display what is the error. We have two properties in the error object, one is the name and another one is the message. So let me use the property called name, and then I will provide the document.write, and inside that one I will provide the break tag. And then I will write document.write the error is, or the error message is, because I want to use the property as message. So I will write e dot message. Now let me close the catch block. So I have provided the try block and catch block. I am not providing the finally block. It is not compulsory to use the finally block. Whenever you want to execute certain statements compulsory, then you can provide them in the finally block. First let me discuss this one with the help of try and catch. Now let me save this program and go to the browser and let me refresh it. Now you can see, hi, how are you? Because in the try block, now you are raising an error because you are providing the error here, document.writing. Am I right? So then you can observe what will happen. You are getting the error name as type error, and the error message is, you can observe here, document.writing is not a function. I hope you have understood this one. Now let me provide the finally block. In the finally block, I will write document.write welcome to Parnika tutorials. Now let me close the finally block. Now remember one important point. Whenever there is an error, then immediately the try block will stop executing it. Immediately it will throw an error object. That error object will be catched by the catch statement, and then it has the two properties. One is the name and then message. You can use those properties and display the certain content. If there is no issue in the try block, then the statements which are there in the catch block will not be executed. However, the statements which are there in the finally block will be executed. However, we will save this program and let me go to the browser and let me refresh it. Now you can see we got the output as welcome to Parnika tutorials. Before that, let me provide the break tag. Now let me save this program, go to the browser and let me refresh it. See, we got the output as hi, how are you? Then an error has been raised. So the error object has been thrown and the catch block has catched it, and then you are displaying the error name and error message, and then the statements which are there in the finally block has been executed. Now let me delete this statement. Meaning is that there is no issue in the try block. If there is no issue in the try block, the statements which are there in the catch block will not be executed. However, the statements which are there in the finally block will be executed. So in this case, you will get the output as hi, how are you? Hi baby, welcome to Parnika tutorials. If you want to observe, let me save this program and go to the browser and let me refresh it. You are getting the output as hi, how are you? Hi baby, welcome to Parnika tutorial. I will remove the catch block and finally block. Meaning is that, can I handle the errors only with the help of the try block? We will observe what will happen. Let me save this program and refresh it. We are not getting any output. Then you can ask me, sir, there is no issue in the try block. Then why it is executing the catch block? You only said that whenever there is an issue in the try block, then only the try block will throw an error object. That error object will be catched by the catch statement, and then the statements which are there in the catch block will be executed. But here there is no error. But then why it is not displaying the output for you? Means in a movie, only villain should not be there. With a villain, hero also should be there. Am I right? So you cannot provide only the try block, then it will give an error for you. So it is our duty to either provide the finally block or the catch block. Let's provide the finally block and we will display document.write Parnika tutorials. Then you can see now for the movie, villain is there, and also let's consider this is a comedian. Finally is a comedian block because always it will execute it. Now there is no issue. If you want to observe, let me save this program and refresh it. We got the output as hi, how are you? Hi baby, Parnika tutorial. So for a movie, villain and comedian can be there. Villain, hero and comedian can be there, or villain and hero can be there. Only villain should not be there. I hope you have understood this point. Now let me discuss about the throw statement. What I will do is that I will ask the user to enter the input. If the user enters the input less than 10, I should display that you have entered the correct input. If user enters the input greater than 10, then I should throw an error. That error should be catched by the catch statement and then it should display. So to do that one, I will ask the user to enter the input in the the try block. So I will write where num is equal to window dot prompt. If you want to read the input, then you can use the window dot prompt. I'll ask the user to enter the number, and I need to convert into an integer, right? Because window.prompt, everything it will written in the form of a string, but 10 I want to convert into a number. So I will write where n is equal to parse int method is there. The parse int method is useful for you to convert into an integer. So anything which is there in the num will be converted into an integer, and it will be stored in the variable called n. Now I will write the if block. If n is less than 10, I want to simply display the document.write you have entered correct input. You have entered correct input, and I want to display that input also. So I will use the plus for concatenation, and then I want to display the value which is there in the n. Else I want to throw an exception, meaning is that if user enter the value which is equal to 10 or greater than 10, I want to throw an user defined exception. If you want to throw an user defined exception, then we need to use the throw statement, and then you need to use the new keyword and error. Whatever the error message you want to pass, that message you can provide here. You have entered wrong input. This is the message I want to pass. Okay, I have to close the else block, and then in the catch block I want to receive that one or catch that error. So I will write err, anything I can write, and then I can display that one document.write, and I want to display the error message. The error message is, or the error is, and then I can use the concatenation, and then I can write err dot message. Now let me close the catch block, and then I will close the try block have been closed, and catch block has been closed, and the script tag is also closed. Now let me save this program and go to the browser, and let me refresh it. There is some issue here. Try block you have opened where num is equal to window dot prompt, enter the number, and where n is equal to parse int of num. If n is less than 10, oh, we forgot to close that if statement. That is the issue. Now let me save this program, and let me go to the browser, and let me refresh it. It is asking the user to enter the input. I have entered the input as 3, which is less than 10. Then the statements which are there in the if block will be executed. Then what is the output you will get? You have entered the correct input, and it is 3. Now let me refresh it, and again I will enter the input as 67. So num will have the 67, which is in the form of a string. That string you are converting into an integer. So n will have the input 67. Now you are verifying the if condition. What is the condition? 67 is less than 10. No, false. So as the if condition is false, the statements which are there in the if block will not be executed. The statements which are there in the else block will be executed. In the else block, you are throwing an user defined error called you have entered the wrong input. Then the catch block will catch that statement, and the error message will be displayed. If you want to observe, let me press OK. You got the output as the error is you have entered the wrong input. That error message only you have thrown with the help of the throw statement. I hope you have understood about the exception handling in JavaScript. If you still have any doubts related to this concept, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I will try to clear your doubts as early as possible. Thank you for watching the complete video. Have a nice day.